Hey everyone, welcome to the Heart-Centered Millionaire. I'm really excited because today we're actually going to be diving into a subject that I used to personally hate because I didn't think there was a way that I could do it right, which is the big scary S word, which is sales. And I have an amazing guest on here today, Kate, and she is actually, first of all, we're going to get to know Kate a little bit, but she is expert at all this, and this is why I'm having her on. So before I dive in, because I always usually start to rant before I get guesting or getting the people to introduce themselves. Kate, introduce who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive into your story a little bit so our listeners can just understand where you came from.
Totally. Well, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Kate Perkovic. I am a business coach who specializes in sales, specifically heart-centered sales. So how I got to this point was I took my first leap about 2 years ago. I started at the time as a waitress, and I had seen, online all these advertisements for starting an online business, as I'm sure everyone does today. And at the time thought, okay, I want to start online, but I didn't really know how. And at the time I was just, working out a lot and just fit and figured, okay, maybe I'll transition to fitness coaching. So ended up going on and starting fitness coaching online. And that was okay. I made, some sales at it and things like that, but I wasn't necessarily by any means passionate about it. And I just, in being a girl who likes a lot of freedom, didn't really want to talk about chicken and broccoli and rice and things like that every single day online. So, I was in fitness and I had clients and I was making sales and things, but I just wasn't really passionate. And so I wasn't making enough sales to go full time necessarily. So I ended up having to actually go back to my 9 to 5, which was really tough. And so I was super inspired by all the business things that I was creating in my fitness business. And so because of that, I actually discovered, okay, well, maybe I should be leaning into business coaching. So when I started to make that pivot, the first thing that I did was I actually created a freebie that was specifically about making your first couple sales online as a new business. And at the time, a past mentor that I had downloaded it to kind of see, what I was up to. And in doing so, sent me a message and said, I'd really love to connect and chat further because I see that you're putting out some really great stuff. I'd love to have a conversation. And so at that time we connected, and during that conversation, I actually ended up, partnering with him to co-coach one of his programs for people starting their businesses. And in doing so, in that company, there opened up a role for some sales calls. So at the time, I really didn't have any sales experience necessarily. It was just from like self-taught stuff from books and things that I had bought over time. And so I obviously, knowing me, just dive right in. It was kind of like sink or swim. Dove into these calls and just really started to enjoy it. And being inside of multiple 7-figure business, it was like very intimidating, obviously, because the packages were 20,000+ for some of them that I'd be selling. And at the time I hadn't even made 20,000 in my business. So it was pretty intimidating, but I started to, really just like hone in on all of the skill around it. And that's where I kind of, crafted my whole concept around heart-centered sales, which was, I was getting coaching from everywhere about the pushy sales and kind of, really, you have to make a decision by the end of the call and all of the classic, techniques. And I just, in having a previous background in social work, was not aligned with it in any way. And I remember at the time I called myself the sales sweetheart. Everyone said, I don't know how she closes, but somehow she closes these big high ticket packages and is not pushy. So that's how my kind of, sales sweetheart name came to be. And at the time I was just diving really deep into sales, being a high ticket closer. But again, time started to pass and I started to kind of, lose that fire in the sense of the fulfillment aspect. I was really passionate about sales and I still am. But I found that high ticket closing, I just wanted to be more of in the transformation process of clients. And at the time I was really just, enrolling them, and that would kind of be where the relationship would end. So for me, I decided to make a pivot about 10 months ago into fully just leaning 100% in on my own business. And so that's what I do today, which is helping women to start online businesses and scale them, and specializing, heavily on how everything impacts sales.
No, I love that. I love that. And that's really important because at the end of the day, there's a lot of great income producing skills, right? Where you can learn the skill and get paid super well for it. Sales is one of those, especially high ticket sales people, if they're good, can make incredible money. And we talk about a lot on the show, like money is not a bad thing at all. It's actually a very good thing. It often shows you how much change you're making in the world.
Yeah.
But that was a big thing for you, was the fulfillment piece. And actually talk on that a little bit, because not everyone's the same, but maybe there are some people listening to this who are trying to get that fulfillment piece more solidified in their life or trying to find it. How did you know that the coaching aspect was the way that you wanted to go that would lead to kind of that joy or that fulfillment, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah. So when I was doing high ticket closing, it's not like, I guess the thing for me, the reason I love sales is I do find in some, weird way, it's kind of like a dopamine hit. It's just this, increase in energy and this exchange of energy. And I think the reason I, originally loved sales was because of the connection point I was able to have with other people. But then to see that kind of, them going into a coaching program and our relationship kind of ending was really tough. So what I did toward the end of my high ticket closing days was I actually had I had gone to a conference in San Diego with a bunch of women. And at that conference, I, at the time, really wasn't coaching, right? I was just closing. So I had a lot of conversations with people and was just coaching them almost for free at this conference, just giving them advice. And everyone's like, you got to start coaching. You got to start coaching. So I feel like that kind of planted the seed for me. And so when we came back from that, I thought, is this really what I should do? Like, is that going to fulfill me? Like it was definitely really scary. And so what I did as kind of a test for it is I said, look, like, for a really cheap rate, I will mentor you guys. And I'll, you let me know what you think about my coaching and I'll go from there. And I wanted to use that almost as like a test to see how I felt about it. And so after the first couple of weeks, I was like, I couldn't focus on my calls. Like I couldn't focus on just closing because I just really wanted to coach these women. And so I feel like it just lit a fire in me. And after that, I couldn't go back. I just knew.
No, that's amazing. And I think a lot of people need to have that moment where they just decide, okay, that I'm called to serve these people in this capacity. And that's why, we always talk about how we love heart-centered entrepreneurs because we believe that there needs to be more of them. And this kind of segues into the topic that I wanted to dive into, which is sales from a heart-centered and a business savvy perspective. But even before we dive into necessarily, okay, how does that look? Let's first dive into maybe what are some ways that you've seen sales transition, or you've actually maybe areas that are like, I don't like sales this way. Because I think a lot of the people listening to this, number one, have had bad sales experiences. I've had many bad, like betting on sales calls, and then these people lie to me and they get me in this program and all this like really bad experiences. And so I think there's a lot of people that have traumatic experiences or mindset issues around money. So first, let's talk about maybe what are the things that you do not recommend people do in sales, just to kind of, let's put the listeners at ease before we dive in what we should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, in the sense of things that you shouldn't be doing, something I was just never really felt good with was the whole thing of you had to decide in this moment, this whole idea of like, well, the opportunity's gone tomorrow and stuff like that. Like, I feel like for me, I really like to look at, people that I really look at it as a transformation call. So for me, when I was originally doing sales, I found that the lens was very much as the person, as a transaction, as a dollar amount. And so for me, that didn't sit right because I felt like the whole call was just about getting the money. It was just about how do you get the money? How do you get the money? Right. And less on the lens of how can we actually, even if this person doesn't sign with us, transform their life in this moment.
Right.
And so I think because of that, it was a lot of push. There was a lot of urgency that was fake. There was also a lot of guilt type tactics in the sense of if you don't do this, you won't be able to succeed. Really trying to get people to be emotional and really lay on, guilt or fear or shame. And almost using it as a tool to manipulate people into action. And so for me, I feel like with heart-centered, and I know we'll touch on this, is just kind of like, complete polar opposite to that, going into empowerment and going into education and just saying, okay, well, what did I not like about sales was the push and the deceit and the pressure. And I was coached on pressuring more, make them choose and, lean into this more and make them, feel it deeper and things like that. And the more I think that I was pushed into that, the more I almost resisted it and said, like, there has to be another way. And so for me, I think the thing that's allowed me to be successful at sales and closing high ticket has come from me looking at sales with the lens of social work instead of money. And so as soon as I did that, I think that's when everything kind of started to pivot.
No, that's amazing. And that's, I mean, I had a similar experience. I think of it in different terms, but a very similar experience where when I was a fitness coach being sold by these business mentors, and I remember once it was terrible. So they were like, okay, the price is usually 8,000. We're going to drop it to 5,000. If you don't sign up today, it's going to be 8,000. Well, guess what? I didn't sign up that day. I signed up a week later and they didn't make it go to 8,000. And all of a sudden I
Mhm.
was like, I'm happy that I don't have to pay extra, but now I don't trust you.
Right.
And anyways, there's all these things, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners have probably gone through this. And this is where I see people being what I would say business savvy without a heart. They're so pushing analytical and robotic that they don't actually care about the human on the other side of the phone. And
Mhm.
so talk to me a couple of the things that when you think of heart-centered sales, what does that mean? What does the heart part of that actually mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big pillar that I look at for sales is that sales is really not a script, it's a framework. So I
Yeah.
think, similar to, again, as I say, with social work, similar to social work, how you're given, prompts or skills you develop on how to have really authentic, deep conversations with people. I bring that same element to sales in the sense of
Mm,
not, I find it very difficult to see people to say, like, say these words. Cause like for me, I just can't imagine how you would do that in an authentic and an aligned way. And so for me, I think, it's the framework of sales, I think, as the backbone of it. But I think what makes it heart centered, I use this analogy with clients, which is, if you guys have ever seen that show Intervention, and the basis of this being, and maybe it's dramatic, but I find this always gives me a good perspective, is I think about the prospect or the person you're getting on the call with as having a really deep rooted problem. And similar to, like, if you're looking at someone who has addiction, or anyone that you'll see in that show, they've got a deep rooted problem that bothers them every single day that they're struggling with. And
mhm,
so regardless of what you sell, whether it's fitness or business coaching or mindset coaching, whatever it is, your space, there's someone in your space who's really struggling with their current experience today. And so for me, I think about sales from a lens of, push from passion, but not from pressure. And
mm.
so what I mean by that is, like, if you had a family member who was really struggling and you had this opportunity, like they do an intervention, right? Where they sit down and they have this one opportunity, this one window to try to get that person to take action on the thing that they deeply desire, but are having resistance to, what would you do?
Mhm.
And so I think for me, when I look at calls, that's how I look at it. I look at it as this person has, been struggling behind the scenes. They've been trying to get this business maybe up and going, but they just don't know how they're going to do it. And they have these limiting beliefs that come up and these failures that come up for them. And they're now somehow on a phone with me, and they've clicked that button to, realize they even want help. They've gone as far as actually getting on the phone. And so for me to, you know, get them to the other side of what they actually need to get help comes to what I say and do on that call. And I think as long as you, from a heart-centered place in the sense of how that works, is going to serve. And I know you talk about this all the time in your content, which is, serving from a place of truly service and not looking at it as to what's attached for you. And I think for me, the reason that sales is easy is because I'm not attached to the outcome, because I look at it as, if that person, doesn't sign with me, but they sign with someone else, I'm still okay with that because they got what they needed to have that transformation.
Mhm.
Um, and while some might think, well, is that strategic? That mindset has allowed me to sign a lot of people, because it
Mhm.
shows that it's not just about me or my business or my profits or my numbers, but about them and their transformation and their outcome and their needs over mine.
Totally. And when people ask, like, exactly that, is that tactical or strategic to do it that way? A lot of them don't realize that when something becomes commonplace in the industry, like a lot of sales being super pressurized,
Mm.
being the opposite on the scale is very tactical. Not only, and I say this all the time, kind of tongue in cheek, is like, I love to push service and value and heart centeredness because I truly believe in it. And to my benefit, it's trending right now. It's trending. And so I'm not just doing it because it's trending, because maybe in 5 years, if it's not trending, I'll still be doing it. But like right now, it sounds kind of funny. It's the best time to be a heart-centered coach
Yeah.
or a heart-centered online entrepreneur, because people are drawn to real people online. and people who they're not going to like, you don't have to make a decision on the call. And I know, and maybe we should talk to this a little bit. I don't know about you, but around 40% of the sales that we have as a company happen after the sales call. And maybe yours is similar. Actually, I'd love to hear from you if you're okay with sharing some of those numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. I like, even for me, people will say, you know, what's the percentage of people that, you know, are a one call close kind of thing for you?
Yeah.
And so, for example, you know, the common objection of I want to talk to my spouse, right? And I think, again, you know, past mentors would say, well, who's the decision maker in the house, and things like that would be questions people would ask, right? And you're always, again, trying to go in with that lens of closing on the call. But for me, I always think of like, if that objection came up and I'm going to be working with this person and I want them to respect my relationship that I have with my partner, would they say that? And you wouldn't, right? So I always look at it as, if I'm going to work with the person, how would I interact with them? And so from an objection standpoints, I don't usually push very heavily to say, okay, like it has to be on this call. So, you know, for me, I agree. I would say a good, probably 30% of my sales of my business come from a follow-up call within about 24 or 48 hours or something like that, just to say, sure, we'll connect at X time. And I think for me, something that I've seen and I've heard from people who are now clients is I respected the fact that you didn't push me and you allowed me to, you know, look elsewhere, or to, you know, take time, or to do whatever. And so for me, when I've seen those people come back again and again, it doesn't give me a fear around letting them off phone, because I know if I've made the impact I should have made on that call, they won't want to go anywhere else. And so that's kind of my philosophy around it.
No, I love that. And I've had similar stuff where people literally 10 minutes after we got off a call, they messaged me and they're like, I kind of wanted to see if you were going to pressure me to stay on the call, and I really appreciate that you didn't. I'd love to sign up. It's like they're literally trying to test to see, like, okay, you say, and like you obviously say like your heart centered, and everywhere we're saying we're heart centered. So it's like people are literally testing, are they actually heart-centered? And once they feel that integrity come through, it's almost like we often talk about like know and trust. It's almost like their trust goes to a whole nother level, because they're like, this person is full of integrity and transparency.
Right.
And I absolutely love that. And I really like that you push towards this. Now, I love that we're talking about the heart-centeredness, but I think that heart-centered entrepreneurs also need to become business sound, because my goal is that the heart-centered entrepreneurs kind of rise up and basically boot out the other people in this space. And I know that's a little bit rambunctious of me, but that's really what I want to do. And so let's dive into the business savvy. How can we, maybe what are some tactical advice in sales that will allow the heart-centered entrepreneur to still stay heart-centered, but to start to be able to get more of the clients, become bigger in the business space, or whatever it is, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think similar to the social work concept is like, sometimes you give too much, sometimes you're too heart-centered. Right. So I feel like it is, you do need to have a cohesive balance, I would say, in being a heart-centered coach. You probably are an empath. You're probably someone who loves to give and loves to serve others, but it also can be to the detriment of your business. So I feel like 100% like what you're saying, to have that, how do you have both? So I think, you know, things that I have to always balance out, which is, you know, how does this serve the business versus how does it serve the client, and making sure that I try to keep it, you know, 50-50, and always kind of weigh out both sides. So, you know, something, for example, for sales, you know, when I'm on calls with people, I want to serve them at the highest level. I want them to have a transformation. But on the flip side, for the business side, I also want, you know, to be able to obviously make sales in my business. So it's a matter of, for me, you know, some things that have really helped me, I guess, as guidelines in being someone to be able to have good profit in the business, but also to be able to stay heart-centered, has been knowing, for me, it's a compass of kind of knowing where to put your energy. And so for me, you know, not a lot of my energy goes into the, you know, I'm trying to think of how to frame this. So I guess like for me, the things that I really look at in my business are, I'm very number and strategy oriented. I feel that good structure, strategy, and systems in your business is essential for you to also be able to have the flow of being heart-centered. And I think, if you don't have those structures, if you don't have like solid systems that you use for consistent lead generation, if you don't have solid systems that you use for, high quality coaching to clients, for, increasing sales from retention, right? Things like that. I think if you are not able to, I think sometimes in being a heart-centered coach, we can almost be too fluid. And so something I've had to keep in check for myself is having structures and systems in place that allow me to always have consistency, but that also allow me to have that flow and that connectedness with clients or with prospects. So I think the big thing, if you are a heart-centered coach and you're wanting to make sales in your business, is not thinking everything can be in flow. And I think that comes with really understanding where you're going to kind of pick and choose to be heart-centered. So for example, if I have clients who are contacting me nonstop, right? If, for example, I had, 24/7 Voxer support as an example. If I have clients that are contacting me nonstop, well, heart-centered Kate might think, just serve, right? Just be there all the time and serve. But the reality is, for the business side, that's not strategic. If I do that, I'm not actually honoring boundaries. I'm not probably serving them at the highest level that I could. So again, I have to somehow meet in the middle and say, okay, well, I want to serve them, but how do I do it in a structured and strategic way that allows them to be served at the highest level, but also me to serve my own needs for the business? And so, maybe that would then transition into like a group call that I would have at, building up a cohort into different sections or something like that. Right. But I think always looking at your decisions in your business, whether sale or otherwise, and saying, okay, I want to serve these people and I'm going to honor that side of me, but how do I do that in a strategic and structured way? Totally. And I think always asking yourself those questions is going to really help to make sure that you're not kind of unbalanced on one side or the other.
100%. And honestly, at the end of the day, I love that we're diving into this, because we talk a lot about numbers and tracking and data in all that we do. And a lot of people think, Ruben, that's not heart-centered, but a lot of people get it wrong, that you either can be in flow or you have to be a robot. When in actuality, the world works differently than that. Like there's everything has basically a polarization to it, whether it's like there's some people call it masculine or feminine, or art and science, or flow and like structure, whatever it is. The best thing for everyone is an incredible balance. And we work with a ton of spiritual coaches who come to us and they're like, I just want to be in a super flowy business. It's like, yes, great. But there's a couple of things as far as being business savvy that you need to know how to price things, not just because you feel they should be priced a certain way or other people pricing them. You should really price them for product market fit or for profit margin so that you can actually scale and serve more people. And there's all these different elements that you have to systematize in order to actually be more heart-centered. Because I know I ran into this issue when I was trying to scale CCN. I was just like, everyone's scaling in this way and I don't want to scale that way because I don't like that. It doesn't feel heart-centered to me. And I had to find a way that was aligned to my heart and how I wanted to care for people, but it was also what was best for the clients, and it was also profitable. Because a lot of people, and the coaches especially, when they actually put their dollar made to hourly rate, it's incredibly low. And that doesn't allow them to serve at their highest capacity. I think a lot of people need to have good profit margins and good systems and good time boundaries in order to actually serve people to the best of their ability. And I think a lot of people don't realize that the structure, it's kind of like a lot of people say structure and systems gives you freedom. It doesn't make you a robot. Right. You are the right person and you work through something that's going to be efficient and effective, right? So I really like that you brought that up, because I think a lot of people are scared of the structure and the systems. And I'm even curious, like, why do you feel that is?
Well, I think you actually brought up a really good point there, which is pricing. I've heard so many coaches think, I'm going to serve people better if I price lower. And it's something even for me that I struggled with my programs was, to always be increasing my price. And I just recently increased my price for one of my programs. And I thought, am I going to be able to serve people? Will I be able to serve as many people at this price point is going to be possible? And so the thing is, I was increasing the price to add more support, to add more, of the heart-centered aspect to what I was doing. And so I think, something that is going to be really important when people are looking at, for example, the pricing of their programs, is not looking at, to me, actually pricing your program higher serves people more, because there is for those looking to make that transformation, they're invested. It's something that they're really like truly fully into. And I think you can build out your businesses to serve many different levels of people and price points and things like that. But something that I struggled with, and I see many people struggle with, is this belief that you have to have lower pricing to truly serve people. And I struggled with myself, but I think if you are a true heart-centered coach and you really are serving to the highest capability, pricing high shouldn't be a mindset block for you if you really are providing that. Because I can be on, and I'm sure there's many coaches in the space who charge very high but provide, sometimes not as
less good services. 100%.
Not as good services, right? And I think
100. Oh, you're gonna get me fired up, Kate. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, which is service of people. A lot of times we like to connect it to amount paid, right? When I've been doing a deep dive and I've been looking at people who, let's say, served their whole lives, like certain people groups, whatever it is, and never got paid for it, it's not that they didn't serve and care well. And then there's people who make billions, who serve and fulfill their calling. And so I've been thinking about this a lot. And as far as like price point goes, like there's a lot of coaches who are basically like, if you can charge it, you should. And I'm just like, no. Because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Right.
I think price point and having, whether it's like a suite of products or whatever it is at different price points, I think all of them should really be placed at, can this product at this price point within my business, is it tactically sound in actually helping us run this business well and serving the type of person it's supposed to serve, right? Basically, is this a good product market fit from a heart-centered and a business standpoint? And is it going to allow us to serve more people? And in my mind, and I know some business coaches might disagree, maybe in 5 years I'll disagree with myself. I don't think the price point necessarily matters that much, unless like those things are the only thing I really care about. Is it going to fit well with our ideal clients and run a profitable business so we can serve more people? Like, other than that, like some people will be like, Ruben, you could charge more, and we could charge more because we like, you maybe could as well. Because there's some people that you and I both know that run programs that are like just like one group coaching call a week and modules, and they charge probably twice as much as us. And I honestly, and I know I might get hated on this, I think that's actually not right. Even because they're like, no, but people who can afford it and they get good transformation. And I just go back to, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Anyways, I'm ranting. I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, something that I got approached by a couple times when I was actually starting online was like, the whole concept around taking out loans and things like that to try to start your business. And I'm not saying that that's, wrong. You can definitely do what you want to do. But I think I agree with you. I think thinking about the person that's going to be using your service is very important. And I think just charging high ticket to charge high ticket is not serving people, because for me, anytime I look to increase my price, I always think about, well, why? Like, and not necessarily to say I have to make these massive changes or anything like that, but is there something that has happened, whether in my own education that's up leveled, or my own investment into myself, or has it been that it brought on extra support, or I changed something in the program? What is it that I want to do that makes this program different or up leveled as an experience? So, for me, for example, price increase would be coming from the fact that we brought on like a full-time mindset mentor, right? To be able to support people further. That to me was justified, because I'm like, okay, we're supporting at an even higher level. But the whole, for me, I find it very problematic to see people starting businesses and having to invest. Sometimes I've talked to many different people who've invested over, $20,000 into their first ever program or coach. And the reason I have an issue with that, I guess, in my mind, for starting your business, at least, if you want to scale and you're already making consistent income, that's a different story. But I think when you're starting your business, the reason I feel it's problematic is because I find that, we know how much time it really takes to start a business, and the work it takes, and the skill and the mastery that you have to really see consistent, sustainable income. And so for me to see someone invest everything they have, and not have any necessarily, outcome come from it potentially at the end of this program, think how defeated you feel. Think how, uninspired you can feel, where there are coaches who, may support even higher than that program that was such a high ticket price point, and at a lower price point, that would give you kind of the building blocks to then grow from, rather than kind of throwing you in the deep end and saying, well, like, hopefully you can swim, right?
Totally.
And so, yeah, I think you just have to always think about the person that you're trying to market to, like you said. And I think with that as well, like, how is this really serving them in their entire journey, not just you and your business?
100%. No, and like, price point really should be a pretty practical thing. And like you said, if you're increasing your price point, like, and a lot of people maybe don't even know this, but like, when you or I would increase our price point because we're bringing on an extra service, or maybe now we're sending these cool boxes to clients, and you connected me with Cass. So shout out to Cass on that. Like, there are these practical reasons when you and I will look at, okay, we need to increase the price point for this. And we don't just increase it necessarily for the exact cost of what we're increasing, because we have to think about taxes. We have to think about all these different things, or we still need to make a profit so that we can, like, do better things for our clients or give more, whatever it is. And a lot of people just think, oh, they increase their prices to make more and keep more. And at the end of the day, no, price point really should be something, it's business health. It's really good. It's a pretty good product marketing fit for the people. And it's something where it has a profit margin so that your business can last, especially because you and I, when we have a team of 10, 20, 30 people, like, we're not just serving our clients, we're also serving our team. Because if we do bad on a profit margin standpoint and 20 people are out X amount of money per month, that impacts them and their families, right? And so, and this is just a really good overview of people understanding that price point is it's about a lot of different things, not just because, hey, you could charge these people twice as much, you should do that. And it's like, no, that's not necessarily the reasoning behind it. So I'm really happy we dove into this. Now, man, our time is running out here, and I feel like I'm just starting to get on a rant here. But I would love for people to be able to find out more about what you do and how you service the world, because I really, really appreciate what you do. So let's start with where people can find you and follow you. And then, even, I know you said you might have something, a little bit of a plug that you wanted to mention today. So dive into that, because I mean, people probably are enjoying this. They're like, hey, how can I get more of this?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to follow me on Instagram, it's really just Kate Perkovic. So KatePerkovic on Instagram. And yeah, I mean, in the sense of how I am super niche, in the sense of that I only help women. Nothing against the men. I was previously
Kate,
within.
You want to coach me?
Previously, in being in a very male-dominated business, I feel like when I went into business, I was just like all for the females. So for me specifically, I only help females to start and scale businesses. And I really only have two ways that I do that, which is we have a start and grow your business program called ITI Foundations. And we have a scaling your business program for girls already making consistent income called ITI Accelerator. So that's kind of, my babies essentially, and the two things that I pour my heart and soul into. And so for me, I feel like my success has come from a very simple structure, but for me, it's just the two programs I always love to refine and make better and better and better to serve people better.
No, I love that. So if you guys have been resonating with the stuff me and Kate have been talking about, you want to hear more, and if you're a woman, sorry guys, you're going to have to be stuck with me for now. But if you're a woman, go check her out and check out some of the stuff that she offers. I know she has some really, really high integrity stuff. Otherwise, she wouldn't be on the show, because we love the right people to come on the show here. So go follow her, check her stuff out. And Kate, thanks so much for being on. I think this honestly is going to be so valuable for a lot of people. And so I truly appreciate you taking your time out of your day.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome, guys. We'll see you in the next show. And in the meantime, go make a heart-centered difference in the world. And we'll check with you guys soon. Bye for now.